Welcome everyone to the Takeout Effect, brought to you by Business Takeout. The Takeout Effect brings real conversation in business. My name is Banki, and I'm your host today. Today we have a very interesting story to share today. We're speaking with Vlad Adonis, and he invested $30,000 into a business venture, and the business ended up failing, but he was able to gain the experience, use the experience, sorry, that he gained from that venture, and able to leverage it to what he does today. And I'm very thrilled to really interview him and learn a lot about exactly what happened. Vlad, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Banki, thank you very much for having me on your show and giving me the opportunity to share my story, my knowledge, and some of the things that I've gained throughout my journey with your audience.
Great. We're going to dive right into it. We got about 30 minutes. For everyone who's watching, please feel free to share and like and subscribe if you're watching from YouTube. We're diving right into it. Growing up, I can say for myself that I grew up in a Caribbean household. My background is, I would say my background is Grenadian. I was born in Trinidad. I grew up in Grenada. From there, I came to Canada. I know a lot of what it's like when your parents come into North America to build a life for their kids, right? That's been my experience. And you have a very similar experience. Can you let us know more about what that is?
Yeah, sure. I would love to share that. I am of Haitian descent. My parents were born in Haiti. I was born in Haiti as well. And one of the desires and one of the goals of my mom at one point was to come here to the States for a better life, because from an economic standpoint, there were just not that many opportunities from an economic standpoint back home in Haiti. And I remember when she got, her visa and she was in the process of coming here to the States, I remember her being very happy, very excited. And then her extended family and her family members being happy as well. And the reason why those individuals were happy is because it meant hope for them. It meant that, now they have someone that is living in a country that's a lot more developed and that provides a lot more economic opportunities. And that individual can in turn help them out. And I remember us, packing our bag, coming here to the States. And when we first moved in, my mom really didn't have anything from a resource standpoint. And we ended up moving in with family. And we ended up living in what we call a one-bedroom apartment. So if you can imagine a one-bedroom apartment, you have the bedroom, you have the living room, and in total, we had 7 beds in that small, tiny apartment. We had 3 twin bedrooms, 3 twin beds in the living room, and we had 4 twin beds in the bedroom. And I couldn't really understand, okay, from a resource standpoint, why is it we didn't have, as much resource? Why is it we're living with 7, in this case, 5 other people? It just didn't make sense to me. But later on, I started to learn and find out that the individuals that were, working there, they had a couple of different restraints. One of the first restraints they had is that they were migrant workers, which means that they didn't make much from a financial standpoint. And my mom was in that exact same boat as well. Not only were they migrant workers, they were seasonal workers. So these individuals, in some cases, would work for a couple of months and it would go months and months without work, right? So they really didn't have much from a resource standpoint. Not only were they trying to feed themselves, right? And they also were trying to feed individuals back home. The same thing was true for my mom as well. My mom was trying to take care of me and 2 other kids. And then she also had a village back in Haiti that was depending on her from a resource standpoint to try to provide her resources. And a lot of the times, to be honest with you, I just saw her just struggle financially, emotionally, because she just couldn't carry that weight on her shoulders. She didn't have the resources to take care of the family back home, let alone to try to do it here in the States. So those were my beginnings. And those are some of the things that I was introduced to very early on.
Yes. And how do you think that changes your perspective on who you are today?
Yeah, that really does change my perspective because when I saw my mom, I would say every other conversation my mom was having with individuals back home resulted in tears because the individuals back home was dependent on her and she just didn't have the means and she just didn't have the resources. And for me, because I saw so much of that, I said to myself, and I was led to understand that I am in a country that provides me with opportunities that perhaps that my parents didn't have. So I said to myself, I know one day I'm going to have a family. I need to do as much as I possibly can so that way I don't repeat that cycle of, okay, man, very little resources, basically nothing, and basically just not having much from a resource standpoint. So from a motivation standpoint, that was the thing. Those were the moments. Those were the things that I saw over and over again that inspired me, that said, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of all of the resources that are available to me here in the States, so that way I don't repeat that cycle.
And it's amazing that you thought of it like that, because a lot of times when as kids growing up, when our parents migrate into North America, because I'm in Canada, you're in Florida, we take for granted the opportunities that are available to us. Even not taking it for advantage. And a lot of times we go about it in ways that are structured. And what I mean by that is that we go to school, we graduate, we get educated, we go and we do a 9 to 5, and we stay there until we're 65 years old or whatever the retirement age is. And that's it, right? Sometimes it works, and entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but it is for some people. And when you're looking at building generational wealth and, leaving back more opportunities for your family to come and for their family, sometimes you have to look at life a little bit differently or unconventional. If people look at entrepreneurship as an unconventional thing to do. So my next question to you then would be pretty much, I need some water. But my next question to you is, you did the education, you did the 9 to 5. I think you had like an executive position. Then you decided to take a leap into entrepreneurship. What was the deciding factor for that?
Yeah, certainly. So it all started off with me just having goals and just aspiring to be the best version of myself that I can be. And the way that I was taught growing up with my mom and the people around me would just say, hey, I want you to work as hard as you possibly can. I want you to go to school. And then after you go to school, I want you to get a job. And when you get that job, I want you to bust your butt. So I worked my way through school. I went to college, and when I graduated from college, I got what we call a 9 to 5. And when I got that 9 to 5, I was told that I needed to do more than everyone in that building so that way I can excel. And I listened and I did that. And I worked my way up to an executive level position. And I did that for about 12 years. So for me, that afforded me so many different opportunities. And I'm so thankful for that opportunity. I'm so thankful for that job. And I'm so thankful for that milestone, because that's a milestone that I was able to accomplish that I know a lot of people can't accomplish that milestone. So, pat on my back, and I'm happy with that milestone. But again, that's just a milestone, right? So then I was saying to myself, okay, what's next? What other goals and or things can I achieve, in this world? Because if I can work my way from being a secretary in my division, in my industry, all the way up to an executive level position, I said, there must be something in me. There's a drive in me that I can go ahead and apply to entrepreneurship. So after working as an executive and working for that company for 12 years, I decided to make that transition. And I can go right into, that transition that I made. If you want me to go in there now, if you have another question for me, it's completely up to you. I can go into that transition now if you want me to.
Well, I wanted to know about, let's go. Let's dive into it. Let's go.
So the transition. So when I started to think about, okay, hey, my 9 to 5, I don't want to do that forever. What am I going to do next? I had to answer a couple of different questions, right? These individuals treated me well. They paid me well. So the first thing that I said to myself is, I want to be an entrepreneur. Now that's pretty vague and that's pretty broad, because you can do a million different things as an entrepreneur. So then I had to narrow that down a little bit more. And the way that I narrowed that down is I said to myself, I want to go into a business that's evergreen, in a business that's going to be around for a very long time. And to me, at that time, about 8 years ago or so, the business model that made sense to me was the dating industry. I said to myself, dating is not going to go away anytime soon. And when I studied that model and studied that industry, it seemed to be something very viable. So what I decided to do is I decided to hire and pay a programmer close to $30,000 to build me a dating / a dancing type of a website, because again, that was going to be my vehicle into entrepreneurship. So about a year and a half from the time that I paid this individual, I launched the website. But to my surprise, though, I had a hard time getting members. I had a hard time growing it. And keep in mind, I paid $30,000 for this project. So I wasn't going to just say, oh, well, this doesn't work out, let me just move on. I went to work. I went to work to learn how to do lead generation, how to do marketing, how to drive traffic and grow that site. And then in 7 months into that journey, growing that site, things started to grow. But unfortunately, I learned that I was in violation of copywriting laws because the members of that site had the ability to upload content such as music and dance videos, etc. And because I don't have rights to that content, I had to shut the entire thing down. So if you could imagine, I was pretty bummed. I was pretty upset, but those were the circumstances. So what I decided to do is just simply take what I had learned from a lead generation and a marketing standpoint, and I just started hosting workshops in my local area as a way to pivot and as a way to see if that was going to be a new business venture for me. And that was one of the ways that I pivoted from, owning a dating site to now doing lead generation and marketing.
I love that. So I even love the concept of the dating site. The fact that it was a combination of dating and dancing, and you had, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you had described it as an app where people can go to look for a dancing partner if they want to, do the merengue. So I love that idea. So I believe that you had a great concept overall. You've invested into it, right? You did what you were supposed to in terms of getting the right people to create the app for you, an app developer, an app designer, those type of things. Speaking to a branding person. I believe you also would have, and I mentioned branding because we spoke about the branding colors in a previous conversation, right? And you invested into a marketing company, and the marketing company wasn't performing the results you wanted, right? And it ultimately wasn't going your direction. You then took up on marketing. You learned how to do it yourself in terms of the ads and all of that. And what was the results when you started doing it yourself for the dating site? What was the result from that?
So, anytime you try something for the very first time, it's not going to work, but it's all about a long-term thinking. So for me, I knew that from a long-term standpoint that this product was very viable and is a very viable type of a business. So the first couple of times I ran an ad, it really didn't work. And I remember my very first time that I tried to run an ad on Facebook using Facebook platform, they told me no, because from a competition standpoint, they were not allowed to promote and market dating sites. They had a handful of dating sites that they were working with at the time, and those were the only ones that they were allowed to work with. So then I went to other platforms. I went to other affiliate platforms for the sole purpose of marketing and promoting, my business at that time. And I remember, just from a cost standpoint, compared to what it may cost me on a platform such as Facebook, when I started marketing on some of these other platforms, it cost me about $20 to bring in a new member. And from a financial standpoint at that time, it just wasn't financially feasible for me. That's when I started to kind of just dive in even deeper with lead generation and marketing, et cetera. And what I noticed about my own behavior is that it was very easy for me to provide people with my email address and or my contact information in exchange for value, in exchange for resources, in exchange for training, in exchange for free information. Not only did I notice that about myself and my own behavior, when I started to study and buy courses and obtain coaching for marketing reasons, I was told to do the exact same thing. So I listened, and I went back to my dating site. I said, you know what, how can I apply this methodology to my dating site? So what I decided to do at the time is I created 2 guides. The first guide I created was a guide for if an individual want to connect with the male on the dance floor. I showed them what they need to do to connect with the male on the dance floor. It was a free guide. The second guide I created was a guide for individuals who want to connect with the female on the dance floor. Free guide. If you want to connect with the female on the dance floor, here's how you can go ahead and do it. I took those 2 guides. I went back to Facebook, and this time around, I was no longer promoting and marketing my dating site. I was just promoting and marketing a free guide. And that time around, Facebook told me yes. And that was one of the turning points from a marketing and from a lead generation standpoint.
And I think I read somewhere, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, it was about 80,000 people that came onto the dating site. Yeah, which is a great number to have. And especially from going from seeing little results and then doing the work and learning from that experience. and seeing the results of it as well. Um, so now you do tell us more about what you do, and the name of your company is Complete Spot. I know that you focus on Facebook ads and marketing funnels. Can you really let us know what your exact title is, and if my producer can put it up? Um, 1 second here. I'm gonna have her put it up here for me. 1 second. Yes. So just it's a micro commitment strategist. I was trying to remember it, but so let us know more about what that is and how do you help businesses with their products or services.
Yeah, certainly. So micro commitment, the reason why I embrace the concept, because we're on this journey and all of us have different experiences and all of us have different stories and all of us have different concepts that we embrace for so many different reasons, right? So the reason why I embrace the concept of micro commitment and the reason why I call myself a micro commitment strategist was because when I created something for free, a free guide, a free resource, that is when I saw a huge difference in my marketing. So from a cost standpoint, I went from spending $20 to get a new member to my site to $2 to get a new member on my site. And I just started seeing lots of changes when I led with providing people with free information and or free resources. So what I call that is simply just a micro commitment. It's just I'm asking someone for a very small commitment in exchange for some type of a value. And the individuals who obtain that free information and individuals who engage with you at that level, some of those individuals will engage with you at a bigger level, they will say bigger yeses to you. So that's one of the reasons why I embrace that concept, and I've embraced that concept from the time that I launched my dating site. Well, not when I first launched it, right? I learned it through that journey. Let's just put it that way. I learned it through that journey. And then when I pivoted and I started hosting workshops via my local area, people who were coming to the workshop at the time, I didn't know what that was, to be honest with you. Those people were making a small micro commitment with me. And in fact, that was one of the ways where I gained one of my first client when I didn't even know it was a business at the time. I was just simply sharing what I had learned from a lead generation and a marketing standpoint. And I remember in one of those workshops, after the workshop, someone walked up to me and asked me, how can they work with me? And at that point, I had no price point. I had no idea. But then I was like, okay, maybe I'm on, to something. So, it worked when I was doing workshops. It works, today. If I look at my dashboard, later tonight, there's going to be individuals who's made micro commitments with me. There's going to be individuals who's joined my group. There's going to be individuals who's providing me with their email address, and then some of those individuals will ascend and do business with me. So from an embracing standpoint, those have been my experiences, and that's why I embrace the concept of micro commitment. And when I work with people, when I work with businesses, I help them to develop something very similar for their business as well, because I know that if an individual says yes at a micro level, some of those individuals will say yes at a bigger level. So that's why I embrace the concept, and that's why I like the process of micro commitment.
I love it. And I love it because it's really showcased just making the baby steps into getting to where you want to be. And sometimes it's just about starting, right? So making that micro commitment to get the results that you want. And I think that's awesome. So how do you do it all? Like, how do you do your business and work-life balance? Is there any tip that you can give to anyone who is an entrepreneur, probably in the same field as you, and wants to know how to manage their time and the work-life balance? There's time for work and then there's time for play. A lot of people are family members. They're trying to what do you have to say?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it depends on the individual situation. One of the things that can make work-life balance just that much easier is automation. There's processes. So I'm talking about micro commitments, and I'm talking about the idea of people making a small commitment with you because some of those small commitments will lead to bigger commitments. Sometimes, depending on what type of resource we have, we may have to reach out to people personally so that way they can make those small micro commitments with us. So if I'm hosting a workshops next week, I was just learning not so long ago that a platform such as LinkedIn gives you the ability to create an event. Not only does it give you the ability to create an event, you can invite up to 1,000 people to that event. Now, in inviting 1,000 people to that event, that's a manual process, meaning that you have to go through your connections and you have to manually invite each of those individuals. From a labor standpoint, that could be very labor intensive. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But as you start off, if you start off with manually attracting people to you, right, that's manual work. At some point, I would say once you validate it, so let's just say right now I'm hosting I invite 1,000 people to that workshop. I see that based on 1,000 people, 200 people decide to take me up and attend the workshop. And from there, I have 10 people that decide to do business with me. Well, that activity, right? Let's just say I made $8,000, $9,000 from that activity. That's not a bad activity. And once I validate it, once I see that work from the manual work that I do, my next goal that I try to do is I try to see how can I automate that process? How can I get some type of a software? How can I get some type of a system that does some of that work for me? So from a leverage standpoint, I can go ahead and I can be able to kind of just leverage my time and be able to go do other things. One of those things being, be able to spend time with family. So I would say automation is one of those things that can help you to be able to spend more time with family and to be able to kind of just leverage what it is that you do.
I completely agree, and I'm glad you said that. Sometimes you just have to go through your process. I was having this discussion last night on Clubhouse. You have to go through your process and look at what happens from the beginning, a customer become an inquiry, and to the end when the sale is final, and go through that process and see exactly where in that process you can automate. And that can definitely help you as well. So I'm glad you said that, because automation will then give you time to do the dancing. It definitely gives you time to do a lot of things that you wouldn't have to, because you're spending time doing things that should be automated. So I'm really glad you said that. So someone who is an entrepreneur like yourself, and they're leaving their 9-to-5, and people leave their 9-to-5 for many reasons. Sometimes they leave it because they, like you wanted something more, right? Sometimes they leave it because they're not happy at all. They might hate their job. It didn't sound to me like you hated your job. You just wanted something more. But there are other people in there that is doing like an accounting job, but have a passion to do painting, for example. And for some reason, they're working a job that they hate, and the feeling of that is just might be too overbearing for some, and they want to go into the journey of entrepreneurship. Do you have any type of advice that you can give to someone who wants to go through that journey?
Yeah, so certainly I would say whatever it is that you're selling, validate it, meaning that make sure that people actually want it, and make sure that you have a process to be able to get buyers. One of the things that I love about entrepreneurship, one of the things I love about entrepreneurship is the support that we receive from friends and family. So the very first time a friend and or family members hear that you're going to be launching a business, the good news is that some of those individuals will definitely support you. And that's an amazing thing. The caveat to that, though, is that you want to make sure that there's people beyond your friends and your family that's going to support you, because from a sustainability standpoint, that's not a very sustainable model. My friends and family, they are amazing, but there's only so many of those individuals, right? I can't necessarily survive and I can't necessarily grow a business off of just my friends and my family. So I need to make sure that I have a marketing process. It could be something manual, it could be whatever. I have a marketing process that allows me to go to people who don't know who I am. I can go ahead and engage with those individuals, and eventually, through a series of steps, through a series of processes, those individuals will eventually do business with me. So I would say that's one of the most important things before you decide to make that transition, is that you validate what it is that you're selling with people outside of your friends and your family, and just to make sure that your process is honed in, and just to make sure that you know how to bring someone through your marketing process to eventually do business with you.
I love that. And you made some great points. So just making sure that you have a business plan, making sure that your business goes beyond your friends and family. And a lot of ways you can reach a larger reach is through Facebook advertising. So, which is what you do, which is amazing. Um, so Black Creators Connect is a Facebook group I'm a part of. It's you're the founder of it. Um, what can you tell us about the purpose of creating this particular Facebook group, and what can people gain for joining this group?
Yeah, certainly. So, honestly, it was more so a case study where I created that group. I mean, I have communities. Let's start off. I'm going to start off with just communities that I have outside of Facebook. So I'm of Haitian descent. We're Caribbean, and even though you know I would call myself a little bit more modern. We love WhatsApp. So one of the communities that I have is I have a WhatsApp community. I have more than one WhatsApp community, in fact, and that's one of the ways that I nurtured communities during the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, I was doing some in-person events, and the pandemic came around. I was okay. How do I nurture these communities? And the WhatsApp group is one of the places where I nurture, some of my community. I had been hearing about Facebook, Facebook groups, and I had done Facebook groups just at a very small level. When I say at a very small level, meaning that under 100 people, per se, I hadn't really had, a Facebook group that was really, growing per se. And I wanted to see what is it like to start and or grow a Facebook group. There's two ways that an individual can go about speaking on a topic. They can go about it by way of speculation, reading or hearing it through other individuals. And the other way is by way of experiencing it. So because I wanted to see what it's like to grow a Facebook group, can it be monetized? Can I create connections? Can I create collaborations? Can I give people the opportunity to network and to collaborate, right? So the only way for me to know that is for me to go ahead and create a platform that would allow entrepreneurs to connect and to collaborate and to be able to, in some cases, do business with me. So I decided to start a group and to see from an experiment standpoint what it's been like. So it's been about 6 months since I started the group. I have 1,000 people in that group now, and that tells me just a whole lot, to be honest with you. The thing that it tells me is that if I can start a group and if I can get 1,000 people in that group, it means that I can get 10,000 in there, I can get 15,000 in there, I can get 20,000 in there. Because if you get 1,000 people to say yes to a group, you'll get 10,000 people to say yes to it. So I'm just looking forward to being able to grow it more. I'm looking forward to being able to do, in-person events. I miss being able to do in-person events. And those are the things that I'm looking forward to. And those are the possibilities that I see with that community.
And what I would say that I like about it personally as being a member of this group is the consistency in it. So being able to consistently reach out to your members and communicate with them on an ongoing basis about pretty much anything. I think it's what I admire the most. The future for Vlad, where do you see yourself in the future?
The future for me, I think it's time that I learn other platforms, right? So Facebook, from an automation, from an ad standpoint, I'm comfortable with. Right now, I'm doing some manual stuff on, LinkedIn, and now I need to go ahead and automate the process. So I'm validating some things on LinkedIn now. Because a lot of people talk about LinkedIn. A lot of people talk about, hey, you know what, LinkedIn is a gold mine, so on and so forth. But I'm sorry.
I'm on there.
You're on there? Yeah, and I don't have a lot of experience with marketing process and or client attraction on LinkedIn, but at the same time, you hear people say that it's definitely possible all of the time. So the thing that I'm very careful about is to not neglect the thing that's already been working for me, right? So Facebook, I can't neglect that because that wouldn't be savvy. But at the same time, I think it makes sense for me to go and test other platforms, and one of those platforms that I'm playing around with right now is LinkedIn, and then I'm going to move myself over to YouTube. I'm going to continue to be about audience building, so building an audience. So that's something that I'm going to continue to do all of the time. My email list, my Facebook group in this case, and my other assets, because I believe that as a business person, you have to continue to grow your audience. The other thing that I'm going to continue to do is I'm going to continue to create more signature piece of content that's going to allow me to attract people to me for the sole purpose of saying, hey, I have a training on marketing funnels. I have a training on marketing automation. I think if I can create those signature type of content, then I can attract different people to me, and some of those individuals will essentially ascend. So I'm looking forward to being able to create just more content, and I'm looking forward to being able to do more of this stuff, getting on other people's platform and just sharing my story. One of the reasons that I believe in myself. And one of the reasons that I believed in myself enough to leave my 9 to 5 is that my story is unique, right? I don't know anyone else that had that did have a website at some point, a dating website that had the same exact name as my dating website. I don't know anyone else that's had my exact same experience. So that in itself is unique. So I'm going to, leverage that a little bit more and get in front of more audiences to share that story, because I know I have a unique perspective. Everyone does. Everyone has a unique story. Everyone has a unique perspective. So I need to leverage and take advantage of that a little bit more as well.
So how can we reach you? Let's say there's some viewers who want to get their Facebook ad popping and they want to, do marketing funnels. How can we reach you?
Yeah, so certainly I'll start off with just giving away something for free. I have a free resource, and that resource essentially allows you to be able to use, the idea of marketing funnel / marketing, marketing process. And you can take advantage of it by just going to vladadonis.com. So that's one of the ways you can go ahead and take the next step with me. The other way you can take the next step with me is if you can connect with me via my group, Black Creators Connect. It's a free group, and that group is on Facebook. You can also follow me on any of those platforms as well, Vladimir Adonis, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, and or LinkedIn. Those are the ways that you can go ahead and connect with me and be able to take the next steps with me.
Okay. It's been a pleasure having you on today. I've learned so much from you, and I'm continuing to learn from you, and we're learning from each other. I wish you the best on your entrepreneurship journey, and please, please feel free to continue connecting. And thank you for being here today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, so much for allowing me and giving me the opportunity to be on your platform. And you keep doing what you're doing as well. You're doing amazing things. You're bringing so many different entrepreneurs on your platform, allowing them to share their stories, allowing them to encourage, and allow them to be able to kind of just share what it is that they know with other individuals. So keep doing your work, and I appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. And for everyone who's watching, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you're watching from YouTube right now. Have a great day, everyone. See you next Thursday at 7 p.m. Bye.